Today, the Liberals released their mandate letters to cabinet ministers. Those are the letters that give cabinet ministers their permanent instructions. As I mentioned in this video here, Justin Trudeau used his mandate letter to the Minister of Transport to kill the Northern Gateway pipeline. He simply banned any oil tankers in northern BC. Saudi tankers are still allowed to bring oil to eastern Canada. Trudeau has no problem with OPEC tankers. They're magically safe or something. It's just Canadian tankers taking our oil to market that Trudeau's against. Anyways, click here to see my take on that. But let's look at Trudeau's mandate letter to the Minister of Natural Resources himself, a Winnipegger named Jim Carr. Trudeau has 4 MPs from Alberta, but he gave the energy ministry to Manitoba. I think it makes sense because the energy minister will have to destroy thousands of Alberta jobs. It would simply be unfair to make an Albertan destroy the jobs of his family and neighbors. It's easier for a cabinet minister 2 provinces over to have that dirty job. I read the mandate letter carefully. I note that the words oil, gas, pipelines, oil sands, nuclear, none of those words are in there. The word energy is, but only in a certain way. Energy conservation, renewable energy. The document is worded slightly vaguely, as I suppose all mandate letters have to be, but it's clear enough. Canada is going to war against our own carbon-based industries, oil, gas, LNG, coal, even uranium. It's going to be subsidies for wind turbine lobbyists and solar power lobbyists and regulations and restrictions on real energy that the rest of the world uses. The author of this plan is Trudeau's principal secretary, Gerald Butts. Butts is the extremist who used to run an eco-lobby group that invented Earth Hour, you know, the fake holiday where children are taught to turn off the lights and the heat and sit in silence for an hour and think about how evil energy is and to get used to energy poverty. I call it North Korea Hour, to live in fuel poverty. That's no joke. Gerald Butts was Dalton McGuinty's senior advisor when Ontario brought in the disastrous Green Energy Act that shut down affordable, reliable coal-fired power plants and provided massive subsidies for horribly ugly, skyscraper-tall wind turbines that just don't work reliably, which is why Ontario's power prices are now amongst the highest in the continent. A more pragmatic man would have learned from that disastrous experience, but Gerald Butts is an anti-industrial wrecker. He doesn't think his Ontario experience was a disaster because plenty of his friends, like the former Liberal Party President Mike Crawley, made millions off green energy contracts with the government. But more importantly to Butts, Butts likes high energy prices. He likes fuel poverty. That's the whole point. High prices change people's behavior. That's Stéphane Dion's green shift. Make power so expensive that you don't use it anymore. It's behavioral modification. It's social engineering by the government. Gerald Butts wants to do that to the whole country now, what he did to Ontario. Here, listen to him again in a video he taped a few years ago. He starts off saying he wants to kill the Northern Gateway oil pipeline, which Trudeau just did. But then Butts goes on to say he wants to kill all fossil fuel energy, all of it. He wants an alternative economy. No coal, no oil, no gas, none of it, just something new and utopian. Here, listen.
We don't think there ought to be a carbon-based energy industry by the middle of this century. That's our policy in Canada, and it's our policy all over the world. You can choose to fight this fight on locking us into a high-carbon economy for 5 decades. And I think that's a very reasonable perspective to take. In fact, it's one we do take. So we think that the oil sands have been expanded too rapidly without a serious plan for environmental remediation in the first place. So that's why we don't think it's up to us to decide whether there should be another route for a pipeline, because the real alternative is not an alternative route, it's an alternative economy.
Jim Carr is the National Resources Minister in name, but Gerald Butts is the one running the show. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.